Good evening, counselors. This work session is going to cover our current Transportation Growth Management Grant. We'll do a little bit of background on the TGM program before getting into the grant specifics and where we are within the grant. And we'll follow that up with a little bit of how we can use the grant to our advantage in the greater UGB process. So to start off, Transportation and Growth Management, if you haven't heard that name before, is a great program that we have within the state. Their little slogan is better ways to better places, and they've helped with a lot of different planning efforts over the last just over almost 30 years now. Can you go next slide?
There we go.
Okay, as I mentioned, they had their 30th anniversary in 2023. And TGM is a joint program between DLCD, Department of Land Conservation Development, and ODOT, two of our biggest players in the land use and transportation planning arenas in Oregon. The TGM program is funded nearly 1,300 projects. And those projects are focused on local government, planning for growth, smart transportation planning, smart land use planning, with focus on sustainability and equity. And this is ultimately for the implementation of transportation planning rule, Oregon transportation plan, and statewide nodal and topic plans at a local level. Slide, please. This is a quick summary of the TGM objectives. They go into a lot more detail, but this is just going to be a short overview of how and why they do the work they do. At the core of it is providing transportation choices with a focus on equity, accessibility, and really providing local community support. Creating communities with vibrant neighborhoods, lively centers, a real focus on livability, like I said before, accessibility. Bullet points 3 and 4 here, supporting economic vitality and growth and saving public and private costs. These kind of tie in together. Smart planning and efficient planning supports good economic environment. Efficient land use is attractive to development and good communities. And ultimately, this is in favor of the purpose of the land use planning system here in Oregon, which is environmental stewardship. Land use planning has been a cornerstone of Oregon's development for over 50 years now, with a real focus on environmental preservation. So, great program we have here with TGM. In terms of protecting our environment, supporting our economic growth, and creating a great livable local communities and state overall. Next slide, please. So TGM enacts these goals, great lofty goals, through 2 main avenues: the grants, which make up about 80% of their funding, and that amounts to about $5 million per biennium. Focused primarily on transportation planning and then land use and transportation planning. So despite the overlap of names there, those really focus on 2 different aspects of the development and planning role. The second sort of smaller branch, but no less important, is community assistance. That falls into code assistance, quick response, outreach and education, TSP assessments. These are all quick things that TGM can help with via technical assistance by contracting with outside consultants to help governments who maybe don't have the capacity to do these sort of actions on their own, or to get things done when capacity is focused elsewhere. This is a smaller branch, only about 20% of their service funding, or $1 million per biennium, but less important and something that local governments can really leverage. Next slide, please. So integrated land use and transportation planning grants is just one small facet of the grants program at TGM, but it's a really important one to North Plains because this is the umbrella that our grant falls under. So included in these are specific area plans, concept plans, transportation efficient plans, land use plans, and then the implementation of plans, code amendments, strategies, and IGAs. Our grant is a land use and transportation concept plan grant. And that is a major plan for, areas that are brought into a urban growth boundary expansion area. Next slide, please. So that's kind of the framework of how we are funded for this grant. Specifically within the North Plains UGB concept plan, we have these specific objectives. I'm going to go ahead and read these somewhat by verbatim because they are important. Planning for the development of affordable and market rate housing, accessible neighborhoods and employment lands that will drive the city's economy, accommodating residential growth up to that 790 new dwelling units that is identified in our HNA. And that's for a 20-year planning period. Planning for newly urbanized land to have that proper mix of residential, employment, parks, public service, and identifying land within that newly urbanized category for housing and making sure we have those connections between those uses. Ideally, really strong connections between residents and new and future employers. Next slide, please.
Try turning them all off.
I did it.
Okay. And then moving on to the sort of more doing part of the plan, developing a roadmap for implementation and phasing of financing. And then providing housing choices, variety of dwelling types, a mixture of rent and ownership opportunities, accommodating our different socioeconomic needs as identified in our HNA, and really improving the equity and affordability of our community. And then neighborhoods with equal access for everyone. That disabilities, that includes accessibility communities, that includes accessibility for people of different incomes. That includes accessibility for people in different life stages, young singles, young families, older families, retirees. We have a lot of people who call North Plains home, and we want to make sure that all of those are accommodated within our concept plan. Next slide, please. So this is the scope of work. This is our guidelines to doing the actual work of concept planning. It starts off with project management. That is underway. That is an ongoing effort that your staff and consultants are partaking in every single week. Kickoff meetings, management meetings, putting together and maintaining a schedule, and public engagement plan, and maintaining a project web page so that the public has a good source of information and can stay up to date on our activities. Step 2 or phase 2 is community engagement. This is a step that has been put on a brief hold as we've gone through the process of determining what UGB expansion looks like for North Plains. This step has been sort of put on a brief back burner. Scoped for this step is technical advisory committee, so that's going to be an advisory committee of subject matter and field experts in water, utilities, development, all of those people who can really provide insight on if a plan is going to work from a feasibility perspective. And then there's the project advisory committee, and that is composed of our members of the public, so residents of North Plains, residents of the surrounding area, who are invested in this project, and the outcome of this project, it's their community. So they'll be providing that local perspective as we go through this process. Each of those committees will have 3 meetings, and those will be at the existing condition stage, the alternative concept stage, and finally the draft concept plan stage. So at each stage, before we move on to further refining the project, the technical experts will have an opportunity to give feedback, and our engaged residents and citizens will have an opportunity to give their feedback as well. We'll also have council and commission milestone briefings. Those are to come as we meet those milestones. Community focus groups, community meetings broadly, so more of a open town hall style, and potentially a community survey as well. Next slide. The more back end of the work, existing conditions, this is underway. We've been doing this work for the last several months, creating these draft documents from knowledge that we already have. So the draft vision and guiding principles developed from existing vision documents, existing plans, from say the pillars that you identified during your retreat earlier this year. All of those have been worked into the vision and guiding principles draft. And then the existing conditions and policy review, and that's a really comprehensive document looking at the entire area that was identified in the 2023 UGB expansion proposal. So that's 855 acres. And the consultants looked at all of that area, identified opportunities, constraints, looked at all of the existing conditions, and that provides a really comprehensive look at what we have, what we don't have, and how we can potentially, as we move forward in this process, leverage those opportunities and constraints to the best of our ability. So that's somewhat of where the project stands, is where we've got items 1 and 3 underway. Items 2, 4, 5, and 6 are currently on hold as we work through getting direction from this body on how to move forward. Items 4, 5, and 6 are the alternative concept development. So that's using our public engagement, using our existing conditions to develop alternative growth plans, looking at that 855 acres and narrowing down from there what is the best, most usable plan for that land. They'll come up with 3 or 4 alternatives. And we'll narrow that down through public engagement and process from that point.
Who will come up with those?
Yes,
Who will come up with those?
that will be our consultant 3J. So they will take all of the data that we've gathered, the public engagement, and they'll put together options that seem to be the best and most efficient use of the land that we have available at different sizes and scales. As we go through the process of refinement there, a draft concept plan will be proposed, and that will include information and study on phasing and financing, and really be a comprehensive look at what growth over the next 20 years would look like. Once that has been further refined through more public engagement, more consultation with this body and with Planning Commission, then that will lead to the final concept plan being drafted and hopefully adopted by this body. Slide, please. So this is where we stand right now. These are the, there's a little synopsis of what the consultants at 3J have put together for us. This is a great vision statement, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. North Plains will grow as a vibrant, connected, and inclusive community that honors its small town character while accommodating sustainable population and employment growth. The city will promote a high quality of life through diverse housing options, robust economic opportunities, resilient infrastructure, and strong connections to nature and regional destinations. North Plains will provide its residents with access to parks, jobs, and services while protecting its heritage, agricultural, and natural environment. This is a statement that's been developed from a lot of previous documents that we have from the city, a lot of previous public engagement, a lot of your own words when we take from that retreat that you had earlier this year. So this is still a draft, but I think it's a good representation of where the staff is looking to go with this project. Slide, please. And these are our general guiding principles. You'll see a lot of this reflected in the vision statement. These two reflect each other. Diverse and affordable housing, balanced growth and livability, economic vitality and job creation, transportation and connectivity, infrastructure and public services, environmental stewardship and resiliency, community engagement and identity. And so those are the principles that not only guide what we want to see in the concept plan, but they guide how we do the concept planning itself. Slide, please. And memo 2, the existing conditions report. Now, this is a dense report. I know it was included in your packet. I'm gonna try not to get too much into the weeds of it because there's a lot of great data in there. But it's a little too much for a presentation. So really, the purpose was to synthesize and summarize background information and existing conditions for the sub areas. And those sub areas are south sub area, west sub area, north sub area, and east sub area. Simple cardinal directions there. And our consultants went through and did a great job of gathering data on all of those areas and really going into the opportunities and constraints. Also in this was establishing a policy framework from our existing policies, describing those existing conditions. Like I said, development patterns, vulnerability and hazards assessments are really important part of that, transportation systems, and public facilities and existing infrastructure. Identifying opportunities and strengths, and then coming up with a draft preliminary strategies and policies focused on things like housing, resource protection, mitigation, development. All of those important parts that'll have, in the end, a great effect on how this concept plan looks. We don't want to plan based on an idealistic view. We want to plan on a realistic view. And that means we need to be as aware as we possibly can be of our opportunities and constraints. Slide, please. Okay, so we have a lot of data, a lot of great data, and we're going to be generating more of it. So that is where we come back to a lot of public engagement that was done earlier this year and in late 2024, and that was with the Relook Advisory Committee. Right now, we don't have a proposed, adopted, or acknowledged UGB expansion. And that is as a result of everything that happened in 2024, and we began the Relook Advisory, or the Relook project, and then the subsequent Relook Advisory Committee, based on the fact that UGB proposal did not go forward. Memo 1, the existing or memo 2, sorry about that. Existing conditions report does study all of those sub areas that were included in the 2023 proposal, with the understanding that we've gone through a relook process and we've identified an area that's smaller than that 2023 proposal as a priority for expansion, a starting point for an expansion proposal. On the screen here, you'll see the housing focus map. This housing focus map was identified by the Relook Advisory Committee as a ideal starting point. I use that as a great term, I think, because when we had our last Relook Advisory Committee meeting, we had each of our committee members go around and share their opinion on the alternatives that were presented, and that was everything from no growth to the 2023 proposal. And those committee members identified time and again this map, housing focus, as the one that fit their priorities, that they wanted to see as a starting point for future discussions about UGB expansion, that they thought was balanced. And so we want to respect that committee's hard work. We want to use their knowledge and their input. And we'd like to, as we go through the concept planning grant, keep this in mind as an integral part of our data. Slide, please.
Sorry, what was it?
And then, so in keeping in mind that we want to use this map as a starting point, Planning Commission has identified that need to honor those findings and keep this map on the table. Our proposal, tasks 3 and 4, those existing conditions and that alternative concept development, can go into more detail on this map. Look at those sub areas more in depth. Study those areas that have already been identified by an existing public engagement effort as important or significant. As we go through tasks 3 and 4, that's where our public engagement efforts really kick up. Throughout this process, we get multiple meetings with our TAC, our Technical Advisory Committee, and our PAC, and we can really start to look at this comprehensively. Slide, please. And so that sort of leads me into the final point here, which is a staff suggestion. And that is to consider task 3 and 4 as a feeding ground for public engagement. Use those opportunities to identify and look at the areas in the housing preferred map. And then throughout the process, as we go forward with the draft concept plan, we've identified through public engagement and through all of our data, a strong alternative and then a draft concept plan. Use that to back a future UGB expansion map. So go through the process, identify the areas that are suitable, strong expansion areas. And then when we have those areas identified, draw the UGB expansion proposal around those areas.
So no defined map at this point.
There's no defined map at this point. We've heard a lot of feedback that we need more engagement. We've heard a lot of concerns about what we do or don't know about each sub area. And we're gonna learn a lot in task 3 and task 4 as we go through those finalization refinement periods, as we go through the public engagement. And so as we get more towards task 5, where we have a real refined product, we think that would be a prime time to draw that line with all the data that we have. And then slide, please. And so that leads me to sort of the timeline and the expectations. Next city council meeting on September 15th, we'll be bringing forward a resolution, and that resolution will ask you to approve TGM contingency tasks related to the public engagement process, and move forward with public engagement on task 3. And then we will go forward with forming the technical advisory committee and the public advisory committees, and begin the public engagement process on the existing conditions products. Reviewing memo 1 and 2, and that will allow us then to move into task 4 over fall winter and begin the alternative concept development, which is the exciting part of this. We start really seeing what a UGB expansion can do for North Plains, what those sub areas can provide, and doing more public engagement and really refining that product. Those are the sort of short guidelines, and I will finish my presentation here and open for any questions that you may have or open discussion.
Okay, going over this, I feel I've been burned twice in this seat right here. The first time was when the UGB that was already on the books. And in 2016, there's a law that says, well, if you're on the books, you gotta go in, no matter what. So it happens. And we had a lot of work spent, thank you. We had a lot of work spent with the planning commission to do zoning. We're gonna have houses a certain size, we're gonna have things looking a certain way. There's a lot of work, a lot of going back and forth, seems like 2 years worth going back and forth, a lot of heartache. And then the green light development came and took everything we had planned, negotiated for, was gone. Because the owners changed their mind. And they said, well, you know, this is actually commercial because we put a soda machine dispenser or something silly like that. Downstairs, so we're gonna do apartments. All the planning we did, all the work we did, turned out to be moot. Just totally was done, everything against the will, the spirit wasn't there. And people we worked with for 2 years. Trying to understand the spirit, make sure we're all together. Yes, rah, 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 we're in this together. Just sold out. That was because they were in UGB and they got to do whatever they wanted. The next time I was burned was when I was in the seat last year, the year before, leading up to this. We were told that the UGB must happen. This is the data, and we have to go by that. None of it was like, you guys want to do this. was told that this has to be the way. So with this grant money, what has to be done? What is optional? What are our choices? What do we say, you know what, don't like any of it, go home? What does that mean?
So this grant has been awarded. It's $230,000 worth of funding for the city of North Plains to do a concept plan for expansion areas. And I will let Bill talk a little bit more about the specific obligations under that grant. But what I will say is that we've been presented with a great opportunity to look at our options and to do so in a way that is really comprehensive. As you mentioned, there's going to be always with development, a case of certain people trying to outgain others. Development does try to skirt our regulations and we respond with more regulations, and sometimes we get preempted by state regulations. Sometimes you find that your code isn't what you thought it was. We've been presented with an application to start or with an opportunity through this grant to start looking at these weak spots, to look at the possibilities, to look at the opportunities, and be better prepared.
Thank you, Roland. So Councilor Page, to answer your, or at least answering your question, what the city right now needs to do with this grant opportunity is work through a plan, the concept plan, and I've scrolled back on the screen to a prior slide to give you an idea of one of the main exhibits and what one of the concept plan exhibits will look like in terms of thinking about transportation. The concept plan, when it's all done, doesn't get into the minutia of, you know, the details of what would inform an annexation. So like the very specific zoning, all the specifics of kind of far more commitment to what development can and can't look like that comes with an annexation agreement. The concept plan lays the skeleton, the framework, the groundwork for what you color in the details of becomes annexation later. So the exhibit there just kind of shows the concept of what in this community, and I can't remember which one it is. This is a more recent concept plan exhibit for another city. And this is how they looked at transportation holistically in terms of a trail system through an environmentally sensitive area that could have some trails with it. You know, where the road network would be, where the concept plan is for bike access, pedestrian access, that sort of thing. But it's kind of that first level of framework, and then how do we color all of this in with more of the specifics for for what happens when annexation occurs. That's later. So in terms of what the city has to do with the concept plan, Brad, right now we have an economic opportunities analysis that shows quite a bit of need for employment land over a 20-year period. That's also acknowledged by the state. And under Oregon law planning rules, the city gets to pick how much of that employment land it wants to accommodate in an urban growth boundary expansion. There's no compulsory UGB expansion for any amount of employment land. But we've identified, and the city has adopted, and the state has acknowledged an amount of employment land and qualities of employment land, types of sites, and likely candidate industries, that sort of thing. And then the other thing that the concept planning process has to be based on and is meant to accomplish, and that is informing the concept plan framework and guidelines, like one of these, like the map here for transportation, the amount of housing land need that the city currently has adopted as its H&A, its housing needs analysis, but is not yet acknowledged at the state, but we're working towards that. So that's what this concept plan has to focus on, meeting that housing land need that the city's adopted and working towards acknowledgement at the state. And however much employment land the city chooses to bring in to accommodate its employment land need over a 20-year period. The original UGB expansion that was approved in 2023 called for adding all of the employment land identified, and then certainly the housing land need that, was identified and adopted. This expansion is going to, and the concept planning for it is going to be about a smaller amount of employment land by some factor. But it has to include planning for all the housing land need. So that's what we have, there are these two things, kind of these two factors, however much employment land. Amount of housing land, that we know we have to plan for.
Hi, can you clarify the cost out of pocket for the city? Cause I heard from you it was 230, but I heard that, I also read that we actually have to put up money to support this grant. Is that true?
So the state has awarded a little over $200,000 to be spent on their consultant off their qualified consultant roster for this. No money from the state goes through the city of North Plains.
There's no match?
They've retained, there is a match and it is dedicated staff time, that the assurance that staff time is spent by city staff on working on this, being the staff, the involved staff in the process.
So it's already some cost.
But yes, basically it's a something cost. The only out-of-pocket expense the city has on this really is when the process moves forward and seeks additional legal services that aren't in the contract, or maybe there are other bells and whistles that we want to add on to it, for whatever reason. But the bottom line is that the state is paying for the vast majority of it. Our cost share is just staff time we've already budgeted to spend.
Can you clarify then what the $30,000 match would represent that was captured in the IGA?
I mean, it's my time, it's Rowan's time, and then whatever, yeah, it would basically be that, it's staff planning time, effectively.
So to clarify, Councilor Hagedorn's statement is, there is no out-of-pocket cash. The only thing is there's already overhead or some cost in it.
Correct, Councilor Page, the idea is that the city's skin in the game, so to speak, is the staff time to work on this. But all of the expert work, all of the meetings being run, all the technical documents, all that stuff. Is ODOT's consultants. But staff are responsible for, being the city liaison, making sure the meetings happen, all that stuff.
Councilor Wallace?
Randy's not done yet.
Oh, sorry, continue. I was just gonna read a page on here that had left me perplexed. Page 3 of the IGA does say that there's a city matching amount of 10.27% of the total project cost. But then that match must be employment.
It's our staff time.
That's very accurate. Thank you.
So, I have a few questions. So one is, just to clarify some information out there, and I want to kind of echo back to Councilor Page's comments. The planning commission recently asked to look at the relook information and sort of revisit that, correct? Or was that staff driven?
The planning commission, the planning commission, I mean, they asked us, they wanted to do something with the RAC's findings and move forward with something, because they felt that the RAC had passed on information that the city should be thinking about.
Okay, so if the planning commission brought that forward, of course, staff is going to provide documents and information and things for them at their meetings. So this grant, when it's typically a transportation or other concept planning, which would kind of fall in the other concept with the land use and transportation planning. Is there, and we've had a lot of shifts since this grant was done in 2022. So have conversations happened with the grantee in terms of us doing, say, the alternate concept, things like that? Has that already been discussed with the grantee?
I mean, really, the big thing that's been discussed regarding the process and the grant has been just the sequence of things, the sequence of the scope of work. You know, originally in the scope, originally the way the scope of work was laid out in terms of sequence, the whole thing started off with public outreach, the forming of the technical advisory committee, the forming of the public advisory committee, and then kind of doing all the workshops and polling and that sort of thing. But that sequence was originally set up, you know, with far more certainty about the process for the old urban growth boundary expansion, the original one. So when the May 24 election happened, about letting the technical analysis, part of the scope of work happen first while the city worked through what its planning process was going to be. And to be clear, there's been comment about a scope of work change or a contract change to allow that happen. No, it was just ODOT offered. ODOT saw that there was an election, that there was a pause, that the city needed to refigure and think about how it wanted to plan. But there was still a grant agreement, so ODOT offered to move things around in terms of sequence so the city could think about how it wanted to plan, but that progress could be made on better understanding the existing conditions of the land in the study area. So it was really an agreement, but by the city that, yeah, sure, we can do that.
So
But it was
they-
ODOT's suggestion.
They are aware of this proposed change idea of basically, we're doing the concept planning to then define the UGB line rather than taking an existing UGB line and filling it in.
Yeah, we discussed the ability of the public outreach to help shape, you know, and to help shape outcomes. But to be clear, you know, I think what we have discussed is that the range of outcomes or potential for the urban growth bound, the line being drawn as, you know, or where the line might go as a result of more community outreach in this process, is that there should be a range based on that starting point map of the rack. There shouldn't be, like, the public shouldn't come up with something wholly brand new with what all the work the rack did. But that there should be a range of what a line might look like based on what their recommendation was or what their findings were, and then the public kind of.
But they can
helps
shorten
get
that
there.
line.
Yeah.
Or take it away. So, my question then is on the, the number 2, community engagement, and sort of who is involved in putting that together. So it's putting together that technical advisory committee, the project advisory committee, and there's 3 meetings each of those, and then, 2 updates to council and commission, and 1 focus group, and 2 community meetings, and 1 community survey, which sounds like sort of typical planning to me, frankly. I'll just say, I think we have a plan, we're trying to get here, this is how we usually do it. And I think that in my short time of being on council, it's clear to me that North Plains is not how we usually do it. So what do we do instead? And so one of my concerns, I think, is as we get into the next one, phase 3, I believe, the alternative concept development plan, is that that's being developed by 3J before we've really talked about what kind of community input we need, which may need to be more than 2 meetings of survey. So, you know, I kind of question what are we doing and how does that look? Because it does not look to me like this has been revised, it's simply been sort of slotted in as the usual piece. And the reason I bring that up is that we have been stuck, from my perspective, in a group, several groups, who are saying, this is the truth, this is the way it is, this is what we need to do, this is what has to happen, the way town halls have to happen, the way processes have to happen, the reason we're doing that. You know, this is a complex problem. It is cultural and historical. It is social. It is economic. It involves infrastructure. And it involves balancing all of those things as a complex problem. And yet, what we've done is simply have a series of different groups who are all lobbying to say, this is the one thing, it's the most important, this is what you need to do to get there, you shouldn't do anything else, and we don't want it. So we've kind of got into the ongoing just debating phase. This is the right way, this is my right, you're right, this is the truth, rather than I hear all of these pieces. I hear the no growth option, I hear the 855, I hear the social cultural background issues, I hear the agricultural issues, I hear the economic issues, and we need to think of it differently. And so, I like to think that everything that we have done has been an opportunity to figure this out. So, you know, what did we learn from an 855 acre proposed expansion? We learned that that was too big at the moment. We learned very clearly that people don't want data centers. And let me say, the economic opportunity analysis is simply a study. It is calling in a group of people, looking around, what works here? And I think it's logical to say a data center works here. It may not be practical or what we want. And we are not locked into doing any of those things. They're just suggestions. So, for example, it didn't say you should put in a pineapple canning factory, because that would not work here. But they're just suggestions. And if you look at the rest of the study, it's agritourism, it is shopping, it is retail, it is commercial, it is support for seniors. It is all of those things that we're not talking about because we've been focused on some really specific pieces that one group or another feel are most important. So, I think that it is important to look at this alternative, to see the 855 and what we've grown, to see the relook and whatever comes from planning commission, because I think they're not done looking at it, to say, what are they saying? What did we learn there? To take this grant and say, what does it look like if we do this? Because the reality is, we're just doing the work. Most of us are not going to reap the benefits of this labor. I know I'll probably be dead. Many others will be as well. And we'll have a lot of new people here too, exchanging. Some people will go, some people will come in. So, as an artist, and my background is in the arts, and so I like to think of it as more of a creative process. And in the creative process of making art, it's not graphic design where somebody's giving you assignment and you know what you need to do. It's not illustration. Make the picture. You've got a UGBLI, make the picture. It is discover and find. And so what we've done is start that discovery and finding. It's messy. We've had to do some erasing. We've had to do some redrawing. We're going to need to do some more. And it's going to come and go. But what I think is that for all of these groups is recognizing that none of us really knows what the outcome should be. We shouldn't have that decided. We should be discovering that. Because with any good painting, an artist or creation, an artist is creating and bringing something new into existence. And in doing so, there's a lot of push and pull, take away, bring it back. And so I think that this grant is an opportunity that we've already been awarded to get more information. I can't predict where we're going to go with that information. Is it going to give us the UGB line? Is it not? Is it going to give us some information we don't know yet and haven't discovered? Probably so. So, you know, we've got to go down around the bend and just open our eyes and see what we find. And so I'm concerned that we're staying stuck in this is the one way to do things. And I'd like to sort of revisit a little bit about that community engagement piece and revisit what that alternative concept development plan is. And, you know, yes, it's not an idealistic view. We need to be realistic. But there's a lot of assumptions at play that need to get pushed out of the way.
That's already, you have anything to add?
I agree with that, Councilor Paul Wallace. I really feel that when our citizens voted no, and now we're still trying to push forward with these concepts, we haven't engaged our community and found out, is this what they want? It just feels like we're putting the cart before the horse. and spending a lot of time, staff time and energy without knowing what our citizens want. Do they want another UGB? Do they want a smaller UGB? That's just kind of where I keep landing over and over, and how I feel as a voter as well.
Which,
We have the right to vote for a reason.
Mr. Lowell's,
Yeah, I want to add that, I do think that that's what this concept grant can do. If we stop thinking about what it usually does and use it the best way we can for North Plains.
that's it. Take it away.
You guys look exhausted. I have something to read. I come from a place where my constituents voted me in and they were emphatic and really resistant to growth. So if you don't like that message, please plug your ears now. But I will try and make this kind and objective. I'm gonna read this because it's been a long day. As a counselor for North Plains, I do not support advancing the TGM grant at this time. My concerns center around integrity, alignment with community values, and responsible use of public resources. To begin, there has been no formal resolution from this council or any previous one authorizing the grant will work, although I hear that there's one on the 15th being tabled, so thank you. The timing of the grants signing IGA is also concerning as it came so shortly after voters rejected the UGB expansion. Even after Measure 4026 was ruled unconstitutional, the grant continued forward without any pause or reconsideration. Although I will acknowledge there was the relook committee that was established. To me, the lack of process governance gives the impression that the grant is being used to quietly reinforce the previous UGB decisions. Without transparency or public alignment, that we committed to go through during the previous relook process. While I appreciate the city's efforts to initiate the relook, I believe it should be considered a great starting point. And as Councilor Wallace and Redding identified, it is a starting point. There's more work to do. The process was led by a third-party contractor with financial interest in expansion and likely no experience conducting primary user research. This presents a conflict of interest in flawed research design. The participant pool appeared unbalanced, which raises concern about validity of the finding. At a state level, ODOT is faced with significant budget shortfall. Continuing this contract under questionable circumstances does not reflect responsible stewardship. The grant also fails to align with our stated pillars, particularly our commitment to minimize UGB related spending. Frankly, I wish we were investing this level of time and energy into projects that directly improve livability of our residents. We have urgent work to do, advancing the URA, advancing ongoing need for a grocery store, which was top of mind at National Night Out. We heard a lot about that, and helping our food bank move into its rental space quickly during the permitting process to maintain service levels for residents in need. In short, this process lacks government integrity and respect for the will of the people in North Plains. That is from my perspective. Thank you.
Councilor Pittman.
Well, I don't know how anything is polished, so hard to follow that, but. I would share, in almost every perspective, I can see both sides to each scenario and how everyone is feeling. And I'm conflicted as well. And I think about the short-term impact and what we need to accomplish. And then I also think about what Councilor McCall-Wallace had shared about the long-term impact. And this is bigger than the next 5 years. This is 20 years and beyond. And I feel personally, how I feel is that we do need to look at the bigger picture. And as we just closed out this last budget season, it was very, very alarming to me to see the long-term projected lack of revenue, honestly, for this city. And that was writing on the wall to me of we have to act urgently to fix the looming inevitability of what will happen to a city that doesn't grow in some way. Do I think that we should grow to 855 acres? No, but do we need to plan for something? Yes, and this particular grant is one stepping stone in that process. And I think including more public in this process I think we have to shout it from the rooftops. Please come. I see we have a packed lobby here tonight. But I really do feel, my personal opinion is that we should continue on with the public engagement process, using the TGM grant. And seeing what do those options look like? What are the stepping stones? I don't think anyone here has a map laid out of what we will see happen. And that will only come with time as we get more public engagement. So for me, I would be in favor of exploring the TGM grant and public engagement.
Thank you. We're getting close to the end here. A lot of people are coming in, so I'll get some more chairs set up. Any further comments? That's gonna be a motion to go to the meeting.
I don't think he's happy.
We just close the meeting, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna close it up. We'll start again at 7 o'clock. $2025. Aaron Dunbar, the council president, is online. He's not in person, so he asked that a city councilor run the meeting for tonight. Can I have nominations for somebody to run the city council meeting?
I nominate Councilor Page to run the city council meeting tonight.
A second.
You're in a first, you're in a second. All fair say aye.
Aye.
I think we can run this, but we just did. All right. Let's go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Thank you. Counselor Dumbrell.
Present.
Dave.
Here.
Counselor Hagedorn. Here. Counselor McCall Wallace. Here. Counselor Payton. Present. Counselor Redding. Here. Thank you.
Okay, next is approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 18th, 2025 city council minutes.
Second.
Have a first and second. Anyone, any corrections or anything? No? Okay. Motion passes.
You have to take a vote.
Oh, sorry. I'm already. Okay, vote. Aye.
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 Okay, have a lot of public comments. For, for all public comment, we have 3 minutes. There's a lot of people here, so if we can briefer, that'd be great. As far as the time that needs to be taken. When you make public comment, please come up and state your name and whether you live inside or outside the city. There's a lot of people here, so I don't want to do this for each person, just those are the ground rules. First up, I have Ariel Goodwin.
Hi, folks. As former mayor, it absolutely delights me to see everybody here tonight. Thank you all for coming and being part of the process. And I'd also like to pledge my personal support for the North Plains Food Bank, although that's not what my comments are about tonight. Good evening, council and neighbors. I want to bring us back to the heart of why we're here. This council exists to represent the people of North Plains. Not personal preference, not city. Not developers or landowners hoping to profit. Representative government means and acting on what the community has asked for, clearly and repeatedly. Our town and the farmland around it are unique. blocks leaving Hillsborough, we go from a major technology hub to open farmland and breathtaking views, something neighboring communities lost decades ago. This land is precious for recreation, agriculture, agritourism, and daily life. Once it's gone forever. The community has been clear. We do not support pushing forward any rebranded urban growth boundary expansion right now. That doesn't mean no growth. It means that this council has not yet earned the trust or achieved the engagement required to make a decision of this magnitude. And you not only it would destroy. And now you face another critical responsibility, appointing our next mayor. I noticed that none of you wanted my job. The community is paying close attention to this choice. There are multiple applicants, but not all of them meet the standard of leadership our town deserves. Let me be clear. The people of North Plains will not accept a mayor who dismisses community voices, aligns with growth at any cost, or return to old politics that prioritize power and profit over stewardship. If this council chooses to install a mayor who is openly at odds with community values, you will deepen division and erode what little trust remains. That's a red line for the public. This moment is not about personalities. It is about principles. The next mayor must be someone who listens, unites, and represents the people faithfully. Anything less will not stand with this community. Finally, I need to address the issue of public access. The right of the community to speak directly to their elected representatives is not optional. It's a fundamental right. Yet under this administration, there has been a pattern to limit access to information, to narrow opportunities for engagement, and even to label accountability as threatening. That is unacceptable. Public comment may be uncomfortable at times, but it is essential. The people of North Plains will not accept attempts to silence or sideline their voices. I urge you.
Time's up.
Protect the land and lead transparently. The future of North Plains depends on you. Thank you. And I appreciate your flexibility as I run out of breath. Thank you. Next, in public comment, to have Laura Dexheimer and Maggie Donahue.
Hello, I'd like to say good evening to the city council and to the citizens of North Plains and to thank you for this opportunity to be heard.
Microphone activated.
Very tough one
an ice cream though.
on top. There you go.
Far away.
You might need to slide the button.
Is that it?
It's gonna be short time.
Can you hear me?
No, you have to push it up. Which is rescue.
Should be.
Yeah, that's what you just need to speak a little louder and pull it up.
All right, and thank you so much to Butch for getting us on.
That's been the first time.
So again, I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to be heard tonight. I know that the controversy over the North Plains Food Bank has been somewhat swirling around the town. But I'd like to just talk tonight about what's going on. As the council is aware, the North Plains Food Bank is in the midst of a short move, literally across the street from its former place of business at the North Plains Senior Center. This across the street move requires no significant alteration of the premises. The food bank is not proposing any construction or alterations of the space inside, aside from a proposal to install a small 200 square foot storage shed outside. The city planning department has chosen to impose not one, but two type 2 design review requirements on the food bank in relation to this move. First, the city says the food bank's operations in a new building constitutes a change of use for the new location. The new building is zoned for commercial use and was formerly a hair salon. The city bank operating in the space is a change of use to a civic or governmental use. This is despite the fact that the food bank is not a governmental entity and its business is substantially identical to ordinary retail use. The second design review is in relation to a small storage shed the food bank wishes to use on the property. Each design review will cost the food bank, which is a nonprofit charity organization, $2,296. The design review process can take up to 120 days to complete. This is a significant time and financial burden for the food bank. The proposed design reviews offer very little benefit for the city or the citizens of North Plains. The food bank serves dozens of North Plains families, some of whom are here tonight, and more are coming each week. The North Plains Food Bank operated in a limited capacity today, temporarily outside, and served 250 people. Laura and I did see that I believe it's the Salvation Army has proposed a temporary mobile food bank to operate 1 hour per month. And while that's a positive development and certainly a relief, I don't think that it meets the same need that the North Plains Food Bank is currently meeting. First, the food bank would like to ask the city council pursuant to North Plains Ordinance Code 155.009D to quote, waive the fees upon a showing of just cause, end quote. The just cause in this case is that imposing a $4,600 fee upon a nonprofit food bank that is trying to feed people in the community is plainly not in the best interests of the citizens of North Plains. It is entirely possible that a $4,600 fee could itself stop the food bank from operating. I continue to believe and to hope that this is not the result that the city planning department intends.
Time.
To conclude my remarks, if the council will allow it, we would just like to ask that the design review process be waived or significantly expedited to allow the food bank to continue to operate and feed people in the city of North Plains. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Halberg.
Good evening. My name is Alan Halbert. I'm a resident of North Plains for the last 26 years, active volunteer in many forums, including managing Adopt a Road in my neighborhood and active volunteer with the North Plains Food Bank. I would like to respectfully request the council consider a higher notion of supporting a need in our community, which is community hunger. That our community hunger problem is trying to be resolved by the food bank. And I would just like to respectfully request that they be allowed to pursue that need, fulfill this need, and serve our community, as the community does have a hunger problem. There's members of our community who cannot drive. We serve homebound seniors. There's members who are blind that cannot drive. And moreover, members who are suffering from food instability to nurture their children and elders as well. So please respectfully request to support the food bank in fulfilling this mission for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Meredith Bach.
Thank you for hearing our comments about the food bank. I've lived in North Plains for 19 years, but I've played the organ at the Old Scotch Church for over 50 years. And when people need groceries and they don't have a way of going miles down the freeway, the food bank is really helping them. And I especially like this comment right here. The story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 appears in all four gospels. In each of them, human generosity and faith is part of the miracle. Jesus takes what's offered to satisfy the needs of the hungry and multiplies it. God's intent is for hungry people to be fed, and God calls these people to participate in providing the food. Amen.
Thank you, Meredith. Abraham Smalley. Please remember that when we start the public speaking, we're required to say your name. And also we live inside or outside the city limits.
Hello, good day. I am Abraham Smalley. It's my wife Brenda. We live outside North Plains on Derrick Creek Road. We have been living in North Plains, our family, for 40 years now. I came today because there seems to be a great need for a food bank here. We ourselves have found ourselves in hard times and been in need of this food bank.
Absolutely. I don't know how many years that we've gone without being able to supply Christmas dinner to our own family. Or Thanksgiving without the food bank.
Myself, my wife, and one of our kids are all disabled. We also have 2 seniors on the property that would suffer greatly without this food bank. Anybody that's ever had to tuck their kids in at night knowing they didn't get enough to eat. It's not something I want any family to feel. Laura and the rest of the volunteers, the food bank do God's work. And I support that, and I don't know why the red carpet has been rolled out for them. I think anything that can be done for them should be done. And, praise God. Thank
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Abraham. Charity Huggett.
Hello, my name is Charity Huggett, and I live inside North Plains. Have been for about a year and a half. We came to North Plains because it was too expensive to live out in Hillsborough or in Beaverton. We were nearly homeless, and we would not have food on our table tonight if there wasn't the food bank. The shoes on my children's feet today are provided because of Laura and the programs put on by the food bank. The clothes on them, the clothes on me are from programs that I found out through the food bank. And not only is it about food, but it's how I met people in the community. It's where I made friends and felt welcomed. Please, please don't let the food bank fail. We will not survive. And after this, we have nowhere else to go.
Thank you, Charity. Emily Walton.
My name is Emily Waldron. I am a resident of 97133, although I technically live outside city limits. The first thing I want to comment on today is actually a correction of myself. At the last city council meeting, I had brought up concerns about how much money we were awarded by the EPA for the Brownsfield grant. It took the EPA almost a month to get back to me, but what it turns out happened is they had an incorrect announcement on their website. So as of last week on, I think Wednesday or Thursday, they have now corrected it to reflect that North Plains has been awarded $1 million. And I think it's important to have integrity of self-correction, because what's important here is the truth and what's best for our town, not about pride or being right or anything like that. And with that theme of integrity, I want to implore all of you to continue to have integrity, to uphold the will of the voters. As you're selecting mayoral candidates, remember, we have some candidates that had applied and been voted against in becoming the mayor. That's a very clear sign of what the will of the voters are, as well as how many people voted against a large urban growth boundary expansion. And yes, a new proposed boundary is technically smaller, but it is the largest growth boundary push in Oregon state history. We could have a boundary that's being planned for 80 acres, 100 acres. There also are options that as a council you can do to give comfort to the community around a fear of turning into North Hillsborough with data centers by requesting things like that the planning committee creates a code banning data centers from the town's city limits. That is within the planning committee's authority to do. And with everyone here in the food bank, it seems like our planning committee staff and city staff are spending so much time on the TGM grant and the urban growth boundary, when really they could be working to serve our community and moving the food pantry further along and expediting that, rather than spending so much time planning out how we're gonna expand and increase our tech capability. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Herb Hurst, Cindy.
Sorry, I can't talk like her. Herb wasn't able to be here this evening, so he asked if I would read his letter. Dear city councilors, I've asked my wife to read this on my behalf. As you may know, I am in wheelchair bound and unable to sit for extended periods. I regret that I cannot attend the meeting due to health issues, but I hope to participate in the future. I've been closely following city council meetings through agendas, minutes, and notes. It's clear the council is still finding its footing. However, I've noticed that some testimony has lacked transparency, and certain comments from non-residents have been misleading and potentially harmful to the city's progress. As a former North Plains City Council member with over 20 years of service, I understand the importance of responsible governance. Historically, residents have trusted the council to act in the city's best interest, manage tax dollars wisely, and plan for the future. I'm increasingly concerned by the influence of individuals who do not reside in the city of North Plains. Their involvement, while perhaps well-intentioned, often lacks context and commitment to the city's long-term well-being. With that in mind, I respectfully offer the following observations. City leadership. You have a capable city manager who is working diligently amid external pressures. I urge you to rely on the guidance of your city attorney and insurance advisors regarding matters like the surety bond. Urban growth boundary. The UGB is essential for sustainable growth. Its development should remain in the hands of the appointed committee and planning commission with council oversight. Non-residents should not dictate the process. Governance. While public testimony is important, decisions should be based on verified facts and the city's best interests. The council is entrusted with making informed, balanced choices. Mayoral selection. As you consider candidates for mayor, I encourage you to prioritize experience and leadership. Of the 5 candidates, only 2 appear to meet these criteria. Please choose wisely to ensure stable and effective governance. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts. I wish you continued success in serving the people of the city of North Plains. Herbert L. Hurst.
Thank you, Herb, Cindy. Lori Burrow.
My name is Lori Furrow. I reside in Seattle. I wanted to talk about the UGB and the relook process. Bill, I just wanted just to say how well your budget message, I really felt that was great, that the budget message that was dated on May 8th. And that was addressed to the mayor, city councilors, and the budget committee. And you said, after several years of growth, North Plains will transition back to a more steady population beginning in the next 2 years. This comes with the opportunity to move city focus from actively managing change to identifying best ways to deliver needed services to residents and maintaining critical infrastructure sustainability. That's what we want. We really want that. And it was a surprise to hear about the UGB proposal a couple weeks ago at the planning committee. And the statement, it's very congruent with the priorities that the council had established. And number 5 of the priority that the council established was to minimize resources dedicated to urban growth boundary planning. And that's exactly what the people in this community have said. They at the ballot box. The other day I was going through some relook, some of the videos, and I noticed on July 15th, 2024, that when the city council was talking about the relook committee, Councilwoman Pappen over and over was so diplomatic but persistent. And she questioned about the criteria of the committee. And she was concerned about the bias that the community might feel. And I just really appreciated that. And you were so persistent. And I wanted to tell you how much I appreciated that. And what your concern was, you wanted to make sure it was the relook process was a fair, equitable process for everyone. And that you also were concerned about building trust with the community. And then also you said something that was pretty prophetic. You said, I'm thinking about the worst case scenario. This is our time to rebuild trust with the community. 6 months from now, if we look back and maybe there were gaps and holes in capturing the community, where would the blame be placed? And unfortunately, that's what's happened. The relook process was not a fair process. It was very biased. But there's still time to rebuild the trust with the community.
Did you wrap it up?
Yes, so Councilwoman Pappen's words from a year ago are true today when she said, this is our time to rebuild trust with the community. And that's what North Plains citizens want and need, is a council that they trust and that will listen to them and respect what they said at the ballot box. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. We have Chris Barron.
James gets points tonight for getting my name right. Thank you. Good evening, councilors and neighbors. I'd like to take this moment to raise concerns about the group calling themselves Strong Towns and recent events regarding private client information. While they claim to be focused on building community, their commentary has often come across as disruptive, divisive, and based more on criticism than constructive engagement. It's also important to note that much of the organization's leadership doesn't reside in North Plains, with only 2 members of their current steering committee being residents of North Plains. That raises the question about whether their focus is truly on building up our community or their energy is being directed here for other reasons. Most concerning, however, was their most recent public comment. Their representative chose to ridicule the city manager and suggest that something improper had occurred with regard to a surety bond bill, when in fact that very item was scheduled for discussion on the council's agenda for that evening. Equally troubling is how they were able to obtain private billing information that is not typically available to the public. Financial and insurance institutions maintain a strict privacy safeguards for a reason, and it's not clear how this information became accessible to strong towns. I would strongly encourage council and staff to look closely into how this may have occurred and ensure safeguards are in place to protect sensitive information moving forward. Neighbors, I had some other comments here tonight, but I'm just gonna say this, support the food bank. You got a lot of people here that want this. Thank you.
For the online thank you, Chris. For the online segment, we have Linda from Strong Towns.
Yes, can you hear me? Excuse me, let me put on my video. Good evening, councilors. I will reply to Mr. Barron at a future time, but Strong Towns resents just about everything he said. So good evening. My name is Linda Gallus Merton, representing Strong Towns North Plains with members both inside and outside the city limits, and our steering committee is half and half. So he should be sure that he understands his facts before he tries to make them up. You may have noticed an email thread in your packet between the city manager and Strong Towns asking for information on the transfer of intellectual property of the Elephant Garlic Festival to the North Plains Events Association. I'm sure it's confusing, and so we're here to try to unpack it and ask for your help. As you know, the city transferred its ownership of the festival to the Events Association in December of 2024, fearing that this body would somehow be an untrustworthy owner, according to Russ Sheldon. As a result of the transfer, an assumed name amendment was required to be filed with the Secretary of State. The people who should sign it would be authorized officials of the Events Association and the festival. What we found, however, was the signature of Bill Reed as the city manager of North Plains, dated January 3rd, 2024, after the purported transfer. When we brought this to Mr. Reed's attention, he seemed to know nothing about it or even what we were talking about. We then asked him about the agreement the city entered into with NPEA, irrevocably transferring the festival's intellectual property to it. The agreement posted on the city's website is unsigned. All we wanted to know was if and whether it had been signed and on what date. Bill said he would have to speak to the city attorney. He subsequently wrote back and said to access the document, we would need to file a public records request. This all causes to wonder if, in fact, a transfer was effectuated. If it was, he should not have signed the assumed name amendment on behalf of the city. If, in fact, the transfer was never completed, that would explain why he did, but that opens all manner of other issues. If the transfer was actually made, we wonder why there is a Garlic Festival budget line item for approximately $15,300 in expenses for the festival if it doesn't own it. That's a jump, by the way, of $9,942 from the last biennium. If the city still does own the festival, why does it allow it to operate as a separate 501c6? Why wouldn't
Linda, can you end it pretty quick?
Yes. So I'm going to say, why wouldn't the city run the profit and loss through its own books and through Parks and Recs in other cities? All we ask is that the council sort of dig into this, because from where we sit, something, stinks. Thank you.
So that's the written testimony I have before me for people to, let's go up.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Let me show you this name right. Bush?
Yeah, I've been around a couple of years.
Just want to comment on the last what Linda said. I see Ron hasn't said anything yet tonight. Maybe he will, I don't know, but tell you what, city councilors, back up. Okay, I'm too loud, aren't I? Okay, thank you. She and Ron, they're not his boss. you guys are. Avoid that, take that with a grain of salt, what they say. I don't know why Linda's over here worrying about what Bill does. She's not his boss. And let's keep it that way, please. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Butch.
Thank you.
Any other comments from outside? From here? All right, there is one more for Lori to read, is that right?
They requested that it be read into the record, so
If you could do that for us?
I can do that for you. Thank you. This was submitted for tonight's meeting. Dear council members, as you consider. Sorry, I talked it out.
Did you want to time, Lori, please?
Time me, I can pass. Dear council members. As you consider both the appointment of a new mayor and the city's path forward on growth, these decisions deserve the highest standards of transparency, fairness, and accountability. They will shape not only the future leadership, but also the trust residents place in local government. With over 16 years of experience as a civic leader, I'd like to share a few thoughts for your consideration. The choice of mayor should rest on merit, independence, and a demonstrated commitment to the entire community. Residents must feel confident this decision is guided by vision and service, not politics or personal alliances. A leader who rises above division and represents all constituents will strengthen both the council and the community. A mayor in Oregon has the unique responsibility of leading within the state's land use system, beginning with citizens' involvement. While concerns were raised about the size of the original UGB expansion, the right leader will recognize the need for balance between growth and farmland protection. In 2014, the legislature designated nearly 1,800 acres around North Plains as eligible for future homes and jobs. Many of these lands are owned by family farmers open to new opportunities. The next mayor must honor Oregon law, respect farmland, and chart a balanced path so the city can grow thoughtfully, enhance quality of life and services, and remain the charming community it is, while uniting residents rather than dividing them. The city's broader approach to growth also matters. Both urban renewal areas and UGB expansion are tools worth careful evaluation, not dismissal. Community priorities like parks and open spaces, such as preserving the lake area off North Avenue, reflect values that endure beyond short-term debate. Few cities would turn away such an opportunity for recreation and gathering. The lake could be a true asset for the community and for future generations. Finally, public trust depends on real transparency. Compliance with open meetings and records laws is not only a legal duty, but a moral one. Conducting city business through private channels such as personal email accounts risks eroding public confidence. Governance must be open, accountable, and beyond reproach. Do the right thing and you will be able to sleep at night knowing you served with integrity. These decisions are significant, but so is the opportunity that they bring. By upholding principles of fairness, service, and integrity, serving all residents, not just those who share your perspective, the council can strengthen trust in local government. Although I am no longer a resident of North Plains, I bring experience as a community leader here. As you navigate these choices, I encourage you to seek guidance from those who have served before you and can offer perspective, myself included. Sincerely, Terry Linehan, former mayor of North Plains, 2016 through 2024.
Thank you for reading that, Lori.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Okay, I'm gonna close public comment. Point of order is not on the agenda. But we have a lot of people here. I would like, if the council agrees, to bring up the food bank fees. Can we bring that right now?
That'd be a line.
Here in a second?
I second.
I just want a point of order. Can we do that? Can we, without posting that publicly?
I don't know.
I thought we had to post
I
it.
think we can
public-
because it's just be a fee, right?
Well, thank you. Oh, I think I may have just turned it off. Green lights. Now it's on, there we go. The only, you can absolutely discuss whatever you want.
Right.
You might want to save it for council comments at the end. But the fee waiver provision is in your development code, so if you made a decision tonight, you'd be making a land use decision without any of the procedures that usually attend that, so that's the only admonition I have. Feel free to discuss, but you can't make any decisions
But
about.
we could state where they want us to go for next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You may also want to consider frankly a work session to go through the issues on this because there are obviously land use issues associated with it. And decide how you want the city to proceed, and you could discuss the fee waiver issue at that time.
So discussing it now, we could say that, hey, I could say that I think that it should be waived, and let's take this up later on. And that is. Okay.
Agree, or you could just take it up later on.
So I had put it on my area for council reports to basically talk about some of the next steps and for us to be able to clarify some questions around it and things like that. So I'm not going to vote or have consensus on should we or shouldn't we do anything if we haven't taken it up and we haven't posted it to the public that we're doing that.
Okay, so let's change this to, we'll ask the city manager to put it on to special session in the next meeting.
Session.
Work session for next meeting.
Right now on the 15th, which is the next meeting, we have your joint work session with the library board to discuss priorities and work. What we can do is see if this can be added as part of it.
I think we could add that in there. Yeah, you agree? Council?
Yes.
I think we can.
So make it a 2-topic work session. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry if I overspent my bounds, but I have gavel, so.
It is the process so that I know it makes it slower, but it's so that we really are able to invite all of the community to participate in this process by having it on.
Okay, next, we're going to do public hearing for ordinances. We're gonna discuss ordinance 499, floodplain standard updates.
Hold on.
And that's gonna be go over to Rohan.
I haven't.
Or who?
I have the scripts to read. Okay. Get my work out tonight. The North Plains City Council will conduct a legislative public hearing regarding file TA 25-001 floodplain standards text amendment update. The order of business will be as follows. The city councilor Phage will open the public hearing and request the staff report. The council may ask questions at any time during the public hearing. Any written correspondence submitted on behalf of this item will be orally presented, including the individual's name and address. The public will be invited to provide oral and written testimony on the proposed floodplain standards text amendment update. Additional staff comments will then be presented. Councilor Phage will then call for council comments and discussion. Councilor Phage will close the public hearing or continue the hearing to a specific time and date. Any persons testifying shall be deemed parties to the proceeding and must provide their name and full correct mailing address, or if preferred, their email address. Parties will be notified of the decision, continuances, appeals, or other procedural actions required by the code and state law. The city municipal code, zoning, and development standards specify applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to those criteria and findings of fact or to other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed floodplain standards text amendment update. Hold on. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori.
Now can I have a mint because my mouth is.
Okay, so we're gonna open up the discussion for ordinance 499, floodplain standards update, TA 25-001.
Thank you, Councilor Phage. This evening, I will be presenting to you a short summary of the staff report for TA 25-001 floodplain overlay district updates. Slide, please.
Could you speak into the microphone? I don't think it is.
Is it on?
There we go. Okay,
Let's try that much better.
that's,
That one has a nice, it's just a lot, so we're getting kind of back. Oh, sure.
okay. Good evening. So this will be a short summary of the staff report, which you have in your packet, beginning with a comprehensive history of why this floodplain text amendment has been introduced. This begins at a state and federal level back in 2009 and 10, when FEMA was sued by Portland Audubon Society for implementing the National Flood Insurance Program, or NFIP, in a manner that jeopardized the existence of endangered species in Oregon. This was a lawsuit that stated that the existence of anadromous fish species such as salmonoids and killer whales was jeopardized by the floodplain standards enacted in the NFIP. As a settlement, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, agreed to undergo consultation with the National Marine Fisheries Services, or NMFS, also known as NIMS. In 2016, NMFS issued a biological opinion, or a buyout, finding that FEMA did in fact jeopardize the existence of 16 ESA listed anadromous fish and the southern resident killer whales. They provided a reasonable and prudent alternative, or an RPA, for the implementation of NFIP in Oregon. And that document was a explanation or a guidebook for how FEMA can implement the NFIP without endangering these species any more than they already are. In 2023, FEMA had not yet implemented this RPA and was subject to subsequent legal action as a result of their, for lack of a better term, dilly-dallying. Environmental groups sought that action, and we ended up with a program in 2024 from FEMA called PICM. PICM stands for the Pre-Implementation Compliance Measures, and this is sort of a stopgap method implemented by FEMA for local communities in Oregon and all communities that are draining to the Columbia River Basin to implement some measures to protect these 16 listed species. Slide, please. This map shows the affected area in North Plains. This is our area of special flood hazard. And this is designated, the light blue is what we would refer to as the floodplain, 100-year floodplain. So there's a 1% chance in any given year that this area will flood. The dark blue area is the floodway, or the flood zone. And this has a much higher risk. This is areas that are frequently inundated by floodwater. This makes up a mostly residential area. There are some commercial and industrial properties that are impacted. But you can see that this is mostly concentrated along Cave Creek and Ghost Creek areas, residential properties that are already developed. And that is going to be key in this update. These floodplain checks amendments are going to impact primarily new development, people who own homes in the floodplain that are already developed on the property. This update will not impact those properties as far as the existing development goes. They will maintain their flood insurance. Those homeowners should not notice any differences. If they want to redevelop the property, if they want to add on to their property, they'll be subject to the new requirements. But as far as continuing to live in their homes and be covered with flood insurance, there will not be any changes to that program. Slide, please. Some more details about the pre-implementation compliance measures, or PICMs. This was first introduced in mid-2024 and was first brought to council in late 2024. And this is an interim measure to implement what FEMA has referred to as no net loss standards. And those are no net loss of floodplain functions. So that's flood storage, habitat, and floodway function. All of the PICMs that were provided by FEMA would require a text amendment to development code under Oregon land use law. And the goal, stated goal, was to stop further degradation of habitat. Slide, please. Ultimately, in late 2024, City Council adopted the model ordinance Pickham as our path forward to compliance. The proposed action is to amend the city's floodplain code using a combination of the 2020 Oregon floodplain model hazard management ordinance. So basically a model code for floodplains. Our currently adopted floodplain code is from a previous version of the Oregon floodplain model flood hazard management ordinance. So this is not something that's new for City of North Plains. It's been our practice for many years. In addition to that ordinance, we added the FEMA model code language, which will implement the no run loss standards as required by FEMA. The stated goal of Pickham was to be implemented by July 31st, 2025. However, this goal deadline has been somewhat flexible. FEMA has faced several challenges to the implementation of Pickham, and jurisdictions have been varied in their responses. The consequence of taking this action, all floodplain development standards will be reviewed pursuant to the new code. So we'll adopt this code, and any new development in the floodplain will be reviewed under that code. Slide, please. The proposed text. Ultimately, the proposed text is a blend of that model flood hazard ordinance, as I discussed, the FEMA model ordinance, and then at the guidance of our legal counsel, a prepared option 2, which is an alternative to FEMA's section 6. And that is specifically pertaining to the no net loss standards. We've blended these documents as staff to give the best possible ordinance for North Plains specifically. We don't want to adopt something that's cookie cutter and doesn't meet the individual city needs. One of the main reasons that we have replaced section 6 of FEMA's no net loss standards with the BEH option 2 provided by our legal counsel is to be compliant with clear and objective residential design review requirements that were enacted in House Bill 2001 from 2019. Those requirements require that all of our residential development, new development, is reviewed only by standards which are clear and objective, so no room for subjective interpretation. There was some concern with the proposed no net loss standards by FEMA that there was some subjective criteria that wasn't entirely clear for local officials to be able to review on those. So we've resolved that problem with BH's option 2. Slide, please. Administration of this update. The major variance from the current floodplain is that applicants will be asked to prove that they're in compliance with the Endangered Species Act through a variety of different options. The first one is to provide a habitat assessment prepared by a qualified professional, such as a habitat ecologist. And this will show that the proposed development does not change the floodplain function, the habitat, the flood storage, and that the proposed development isn't a threat to the endangered species. It's also possible that the proposed development is covered under another federal action, such as an existing permit from the Corps of Engineers. There's several different federal programs where development has to be reviewed for Endangered Species Act compliance. So if they're already reviewed under another action, they don't need to be reviewed by the local officials. Likewise, if there's an existing habitat assessment, part of a larger development, and this is just a small subset of that development, then they're already covered under a habitat assessment. They don't need to conduct another one. And then we do have a list of exempted activities, things like habitat restoration, which we think is obviously not needing to be reviewed for protecting endangered species, given that that's the purpose of the habitat restoration. Things like utility replacement and repair. Those things like normal replacement and repair of roofing, siding, structures. Those will not need to be reviewed because there's going to be no change in the function. The goal of this action is that there's no net loss. So whatever floodplain function currently exists, it maintains there. If the proposed development doesn't change the floodplain function, then it doesn't need to be reviewed. Slide, please. This is just a quick brief of the previous actions taken. Staff recommended in August to Planning Commission that they recommend approval of this application to City Council. And they have recommended approval, as you'll find in your packet, with the final findings. And I'm now asking on their behalf that you approve this text amendment and introduce ordinance 499 floodplain standards update by a first reading of name only. I will now take any questions.
No questions?
Well, you don't have to do one.
I know, right? I'll send back here. We kind of went through this a few times already, so we're infinitely with waters here, right? Waters, yeah. But she gets it.
We can give Erin another question.
Oh, Aaron, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think we've been through this at least 3 or 4 times at this point.
Right. I will entertain a motion.
So just as a reminder, you do a motion to do a first reading, and then you do a second motion to approve the first reading, and then the second, you'll do a second reading at the meeting on the 15th and adopt it on the 15th.
So this is only the first motion for about first reading.
Yeah, the first reading and then, yeah.
Can I have a motion for the first reading?
I'll make a motion for the first reading of ordinance number 499, floodplain standards updated.
Title.
I will second.
Motion made by Councilor Michael Wallace, seconded by Councilor Peppin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes.
So Councilor Page, you read the title, the ordinance title.
The
And as I scroll down. Mr. Whereas is the presentation.
Just the title. Very top.
He's not seen.
Let's see, right?
It's on page 144.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Go smaller. Technical difficulties. Ordinance number 499, an ordinance of the City of Council of the City of North Plains, Oregon, adopting an amendment to the text of the zoning and development code regarding floodplain standards.
You have to entertain a motion to do that.
Oh, can we entertain a motion
To approve the first reading.
to approve the first reading?
I move we. So moved.
Thank you. Second.
You're in the first,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilor Michael Wallace. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Back to the agenda. Next up is city manager reports.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Page. Let's see, so, I'll start off with kind of the council in the Friday Five last one Friday, got a kind of a preview at, pre-announced, news that's exciting for the city of North Plains, and unfortunately, I see Butch left the room. But anyway, we found out the email is official today. This is an email from the Oregon chapter of the American Public Works Association. We would like to congratulate the city of North Plains on behalf of the Oregon chapter of the APWA for being selected to receive the 2025 Project of the Year Award in the category of Disaster or Emergency Response, $5,225,000 division, small cities, for your project, the Kendall Public Services Building. So the city is going to be recognized by the American Public Works Association Oregon chapter, that the Kendall Public Services Building for its construction design, for being a resilient public emergency response building, public safety building for the city. And now that it houses most of its services, all services under that roof, being a resilient building and facility for the good of the community. And so on October 30th at the conference of the Oregon Association of the American Public Works Association, there will be a banquet and the city will be given a trophy and award for the facility. So that's a great, it's a great award in part because other cities, other public works directors review all of that and choose it. So they're looking at it from experience and not just kind of, promotion of a thing. It's that opinion that it's a good project is from people who have gone through operating their own good projects. So we welcome that news. So that's the first thing. Second thing I'll just kind of point out is it's a little bit early, but over the weekend, you might have heard that the transportation funding package, the amended package, was passed by the legislature and it should go to the governor's desk for being signed. And in terms of the city of North Plains, the amended transportation package that passed still has a new funding formula that should sizably increase the amount of funding from fuel tax and other newer different taxes in that package. A share that comes to the city of North Plains annually is shared revenues. Every June, the city adopts a resolution that says, yes, please, we would like the state to share transportation and other dollars with the city for its streets and facilities maintenance. Well, with the passage of this bill and being signed into law, I haven't seen refined numbers because the formula, the taxes that are going into it have changed a little bit. But the amount should be a pretty sizable increase to what we already get on a per capita basis. So when I see those numbers, then that will be a really good conversation with you all. Because if they're as significant as they looked originally, that may pose some significant change to funding at the city for maintenance. And we'll want to kind of talk about that because that'd be a major change. So that will be coming as we kind of get more information out of the state about that. And then the final thing I just kind of want to report to you all before standing for any questions that you might have is that I was able to confirm with Assured Partners, the surety bond. It's been a topic about a number of times. The surety bond has been in force since as an effective date of May 24th of this year. And which means it was enforced retroactively a bit. And I'm having it confirmed, but the reason basically is because when we went out originally for the near final surety bond language and amount, that was back third week of May, and it looks like they're retroactively dated the coverage beginning date to May 24th, 2025. So it's been in force since then. And so 1 year from May 24th, that as we approach May 24th, 2026, that's when an annual surety bond renewal, which they usually just send an invoice for the next year, we'll see. So just confirming that. And then that's about it from my perspective. And I would just, any questions you may have.
Okay.
Then I guess it goes under council report, so under city manager report. Actually, you brought up the surety bond.
Your mic's not on.
How did that happen?
It was Katie.
Just you.
Yes.
It's clicking, yeah.
Okay, so, you brought up the surety bond, report and what was happening with the insurance company, but we also, heard public comment last meeting, and then we heard additional public comment this meeting about inquiries into the surety bond. And we have, so we've also heard that about the EPA grant and contacting the EPA grant among, I believe, Salem. I think there was a public comment a while ago on contacting Salem, and then other regional people, regional organizations we work with. And so, I'm wondering, is this an opportunity for council to be putting this on a future agenda item to look at, how are we handling these issues of a neighborhood group going out to, and getting information on behalf of these things. I don't believe they came fully to the council for that information or to the city manager. So I'm just wondering, how does that work? And is that something we should be discussing?
Thanks. I'd also like to request you talk to the surety company, but ask them why they get the information out, but all this, that's.
So, the public comment made tonight by Chris Barron, resident Chris Barron, he himself is a banker. And last week he approached me asking that question. And said he wanted to make public comment about it. I said, go for it. What I want to share with you all is that Assured Partners did shortly after the meeting 2 weeks ago, let me know that they were going to investigate how that information got out. To somebody who is not at the city or shouldn't have gotten the information. I haven't gotten everything in about that. When I do, and I have a call into the surety bond company to follow up on some information, but when I have all that info, I'll be able to bring it to council and we can talk about it.
Thank you. I was wondering if the lines are recorded and somebody claimed that they're maybe the mayor of the city or something and try to get the, over that way.
I guess what I can say is Assured Partners and the surety bond company are taking this very seriously and they are cooperating on an investigation. And that I'll be getting a bunch of info, hopefully this week. And so by the meeting on the 15th, I'll be able to bring some information to you to discuss.
Can I ask that it comes to us as an agenda item with, that and other context, so we can talk about the whole thing going on? Not just one single item, because we can't keep doing these for each item. I think we need to talk about what's the process, what's our role as council, etc. Along with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I can't do that. I mean, I guess I'm gonna ask, does the council do we have consensus to bring that together as an agenda item rather just in council for city manager report?
Yeah, so thank you for asking for consensus. I appreciate that.
Another question I have.
Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm curious where we're gonna take this. I mean, it seems like it's being handled, but I would like to get a little more information. So yes, let's do it.
Thanks. I was also wondering, I seen it in the email thread from Strong Towns. There's a lot of back and forth talking and them talking to lawyers, and do we need a dedicated staff person just to handle their request, or what's going on?
I am a dedicated staff person. So, there was public comment tonight made particularly about the NPDA and documents signed and that sort of thing, and reference to me speaking to the city attorney. And really what that is about is that we have a lot of documents that, like when you go online and you look at a resolution or a document that may not be signed yet, but it's with a past resolution or an ordinance, or it's a contract of some kind. We tend to put the unsigned version out there because parties that we enter a contract with, they may not like their signature out there publicly. So there are a lot of documents that are public record, and with public records requests, folks can get that, see that, maybe with some things redacted if they need to stay private. But the reference tonight to speaking to the city attorney was about that. That is, is the version of that. Is that a simple public records request? And then I let the person who commented tonight let them know that a public records request for that document could be done easily enough. I do get a lot of questions and comments and emails from that individual, and I generally try to be helpful or answer questions. But at the same time, I do view the amount of comments and questions and frankly, the tenor of some of that coming at me as being not constructive, but you know, I try to handle it the best I can under the circumstances, and I do try to be helpful.
Yeah.
Counselor Page.
Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to ask a question. I'm sorry if it's okay.
Go ahead.
So in my experience, it seems like we're starting to get into public records requests, a lot more public records requests, or you know, freedom of information type stuff if we're dealing at a different level. So it feels like, and again, I'm asking a question. I'm not saying I know what I'm talking about, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a majority of this should probably get funneled through the public records request and be charged a fee to the requester. Is that correct, or am I off?
Council Member, that's correct. I mean, if I can answer a question that doesn't involve sharing a document, then I'm happy to
Okay.
say, you know, oh, well, whatever. But yes, absolutely. As soon as a document needs to be shared, there's a standard public records request process, so you're correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are not, because again, we're a small city with a small staff. So I just want to make sure that we are being wise stewards and we're focusing on the things that are important. So, but it seems like you're already on it. So I was just clarifying.
I appreciate it. It's a judgment call, you know, to try to give customer service, but at the same time, we have a public records process because we're a city. So, but you know, I do intend to be helpful under the circumstances.
Any further questions about it? Aaron? Okay. Next up is the city council meeting calendars. I'm up tomorrow for the economic development.
Council report.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I scroll down and go back to my.
Thank you, ladies, for keeping him in line.
There you go, council reports. Let's go ahead and start with Councilor Engelberg.
Say that again?
You wanna start? Council, H.R., do you wanna start?
Sure. So this week I will be, and potentially Counselor Wallace, joining WCC CA for a tour. Looking forward to that and seeing the action. Looking forward to being ex officio next week on Wednesday and kicking off the first month with WCCCA. Thank you for putting me in contact with Mark. They're very eager to have some representation.
It's been since like December.
He almost had me by 30 minutes last Thursday. It was a tight one, but looking forward to that. And then a question for the council too, is there any way, back on food bank topic, is there any way that we could work with the food bank in order to give them access to the facility in parallel to resolving some of the issues, or is that also a planning action? And I say this because the demographic tends to be older and food and heat and all this stuff, and while they're very creative in problem solving, I'm just wondering, thinking about the people who rely on the service today.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Hagedorn. I've been talking to Bill and Rowan, and apparently there are also building code issues with the shed and how they're gonna use that behind the facility. We're concerned, we don't want the fire marshal to show up and start spanking us for why did you allow this? So we do understand absolutely the urgency. We're talking about food, right? And people's ability to eat. And so we understand the urgency, but we also want to make sure that we don't get out too far out in front of the headlights. So we are trying to find ways to get this done as quickly as possible while protecting the city at the same time.
Great, thanks. Yes.
Everything good?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. A couple different things. I'm gonna follow up on that food bank question. So they operated today without a shed. So, is that, I think we're talking about how can operations continue mitigated in between, and is there a way to do that? And I'm hearing, there's certain things about the building and the code. The other question I have is that, when the information was sent out to the food bank, and to their board, I'm assuming, what was, how did they receive information about the appeals process? Or how to do an appeal? How did they receive that information? Because what we have seen as counselors is public comment and social media. But I believe the design to review process, the appeal initially goes to planning commission. So I'm just curious about what information they have received in terms of moving that forward themselves.
Councilman Wallace, I'll defer to Rowan on this, but you can't have an appeal to until a decision's been made, and nobody's made any decisions yet, so it's way premature to start talking about an appeal. No decision has been made yet, but Rowan has all the information on what communications have occurred.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to hear where we're caught up and not yet making that decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
To summarize the communications with the food bank, I was made aware of the plans with the food bank to relocate to the property at 31392 Northwest Commercial Street on August 3rd. They had questions regarding their shed. I was out of town at that time, the National Brownfields Conference. They made me aware later in the week that this was an urgent matter to them, and I was able to respond that week. We responded with informing them that a type 2 design review would be required on the basis of a change of use and on the basis of the installation of an accessory structure. I'd like to clarify that it's a single design review with a single associated fee. It's just that it's required under 2 different criteria. So that those are the applicable trigger criteria. The food bank was made aware of the review requirements, of the application process, of the application requirements, of the associated fee, and why all of these were being applied. And this is all taken straight from North Plains Chapter 155 Design Review Code. At this point, we've had several communications back and forth with the food bank regarding the application process. It is a type 2 process, and that is a staff level decision. It's a limited design review. So the process would go through, first, the application would be submitted. I would review it for completeness. The city has up to 30 days to review for completeness. It never takes us 30 days to do that. Typically 1 to 2 weeks. If the application is complete, then it moves into the review stage. If it's incomplete, the applicant then has 180 days to respond. But usually it doesn't take applicants that long to respond. When it's deemed complete, I complete the review. There's several notices that have to go out, public notice to notify surrounding properties. I have to reach out to our cooperative agencies such as TVFNR and Washington County. At that point, I write a staff report and I make a decision based on the applicable criteria, and all of that applicable criteria can be found in our development code. That process, legally speaking, can take up to 120 days for me to render a decision and for the city to resolve any appeals. Does it take 120 days for something like this, typically speaking? No. A type 2 design review typically takes, with the noticing that has to happen, we have to send the notices out and then give people adequate time to respond. And with the postal service, we try to, give them at least a few weeks. So typically 4 to 6 weeks would be expected for this type of review to get everything together, and then get everything back from public comment and our agencies, and get everything packaged into a staff report that's comprehensive, making sure that everything is up to code. I have not sent specific information on an appeal to the food bank. I have provided code which addresses appeals, but we are not at the point of discussing an appeal because no application has been deemed complete and no decision has been reached.
So at this point, you're saying you have not received an application complete with all the information needed, or it's supposed to be submitted at this point?
I am in possession of an incomplete submittal at this point. I am finishing my review today and hoping to reach out to the food bank soon regarding their submittal. And then this will go through the normal land use process as is prescribed by the development code.
And you're also saying that it could be a 120 days or 180-day process, whatever. I've heard both bandied about in the community. But it doesn't necessarily mean, that's just the limit of time that you have.
That is the legal
Right.
limit under Oregon land use.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my next thing, thank you for answering that question. And it will be coming before us. And hopefully you'll have a complete application and things that move forward by then. So I want to share that I attended I was invited to and attended the Strong Towns group, the neighborhood group meeting or club, or I'm not sure what they're called. And I was introduced as a council representative at the time, and and they are doing some really interesting things I'm going to share with you. But I did let them know that I was speaking as a community member and not an individual speaking for council. So the topics they discussed, and the reason I'm going to bring these up is that we as a council, they as a neighborhood group, do not need to follow public meeting laws. We as council members do. So in the spirit of avoiding any serial meetings, that we make sure we're not all hearing or part of items that would or could potentially come to council. And I'm not sure which of these would, some have already, but just sharing with those as well. So there was a talk of the surety bond, questioning the payment and the lack of coverage and clarity on that. The talk of a community program to distribute trees within the community, and asking about how to get things on the agenda beyond sending it in or making public comment. That they're working on a survey of businesses and progress on that report. And they're working on a community emergency readiness project. They announced that the next public meeting would be in September, and the agenda would be the UGB expansion. They announced that Councilor Papen would be invited to the next steering committee meeting in October, and that they wanted to bring all council members in on a rotating basis. So noting that we have public meeting laws to abide by, and that neighborhood clubs or groups don't. I want to ask if any of the counselors have previously attended a North Plains Steering Committee meeting and discussed any of these items that I was part of, so we kind of know where we are in our quorum process as counselors.
You mean smart towns?
Strong towns,
Strong towns?
yeah.
It's the smart towns, yeah, okay.
So, I mean, those are what was discussed, and we as a council need to make sure that we have not, that there wasn't, other people have attended, other council members, and discussed the same things that, so, it could come to council, and that we don't get to a point where 4 of us have done that, and then it's a quorum, that we're part of that information, even though we're not all in the room at the same time. It works the same way. So I'm asking each of the counselors if in attending a Strong Towns meeting, and I know that that has been reported by at least one counselor, if any of those items were discussed.
I've been to a public meeting, but it was a quiz, you were at the same meeting.
Right. And some of the same items were discussed then.
I have never been to any Strong Town meetings or rallies.
I also have never attended any Strong Town meetings.
I attended the first one. I don't recall what was discussed. I think it was probably some similar things, but that was, I want to say in January. I don't remember.
So that is 3 of us. Councilor Redding said she needed to go back and look at what was discussed, but I think that's an important piece for us to remember. It's just in terms of our operating as a council, not in terms of Strong Towns as a group or their work. It's just what we need to be aware of if we are in those meetings and that we're not participating in that way. So sharing that. And the other thing I wanted to share, I spoke a lot at the work session, but I wanted to say it into a broader sense is that I do hope that we can, as a community, move from sort of taking a forcing a particular way position. And to stop blaming people or sort of creating the enemies among us. And instead, we've been stuck in a sort of debate mode, back and forth. And instead that we can move from debate mode into a more of a dialogue mode. And I ask that of all of us as counselors and of the community for us to move forward. Thank you.
Councilor Reagan.
Is this good enough or do I need to go closer?
Closer.
This one you can probably hear from us, please.
I had the privilege to attend the library board meeting. And I wanted to, call out our local, businesses and the volunteers who helped make this possible. Some local partners donated funds and prizes, and some volunteered or let the library put summer reading posters in their business. It is all equally valuable and appreciated. So some of the local organizations who supported this year's summer reading program was Friends of the North Plains Public Library. They were the main donor for financial support of the program. The Knights of Pythias donated, I believe, 4 bikes. Peak Chiropractic helped with fundraising. Rice Museum of Rocks and Minerals provided free passes. The North Plains Chamber of Commerce. Happy Play, Hillsborough School District, especially our local schools. North Plains Events Association, Melly's, La Loteria, Capillo, Splinter Alley, Team Torta, Blackwater Coffee, the library's summer intern Kai Wiggin, the library's teen council, and our many volunteers. This is not a complete list by any means, so if we've missed someone, please. We still appreciate you and everybody who helps make the summer reading program such a fantastic program. One of the bigger things that came up is that we're in the deficit for volunteers, and so the library is looking for volunteers. Just since Carol retired, we've kind of been looking for more volunteers. And anyways, it's a plug to go volunteer for the library. And then they're doing a really fun program through Washington County called Join the League of Library Lovers. You can pick up a punch card, I believe, starting today at the library, and tell 10 of your friends who may not know anything about the library, how much you know, or how much you value the library, and you can turn in your punch card to earn a sticker. And then I think there's a second round in October, and you can earn a tote bag. Exciting stuff at the library.
Thank you for that. Chancellor Payne.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me in the audience? Yes, okay, perfect. Well, I did not have an ex officio meeting this month. However, I did just want to follow up, and I apologize if this is already resolved, but there was public comment at the last meeting regarding solar panels, and I was just hoping if maybe we could get an update. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if there is an update that we can share on just where we're at with that process, or if there's any other action needed.
Thank you, Council Payman. Rowan did have a conversation with that homeowner. Rowan, was there anything additional to share about that, or?
I'll keep it rather brief, but as we left off, the structure on the subject property was deemed non-conforming, and the homeowner has been informed of the non-conforming use permit process. I have not received an application at this time, and that would be the code resolution to the situation. Is a type 3 process, so it has to go before the planning commission. As I said, there's a 120-day legal limit on that process. That typically takes us 6 to 8 weeks. But no application has been received.
Okay, thank you. That helps clarify. If there's no application received, there's no action to take at this time. Okay. Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you to the community. Those, I know some people have left, but tonight's presence, it was great to see so many people in the audience. And thank you, and continue to bring that passion to the meetings, continue to have that outreach, especially as we go through these next phases. As a city, and we're growing and learning, please, please, please continue to come to the meetings. With that, I'll pass it over to Councilor Page.
Thank you. I've had no ex officio duties, this last, 2 weeks. But this week I have 2 of them coming up, so I'm gonna be kind of busy with that. About public comments, you are heard, right? There's been a lot of talk, like nobody listens to the public, but I'm pretty sure that if you're in this room, you've probably seen us react pretty quickly to people's comment, and we try to do justice, whether it be somebody complaining about just about anything. We are really, as a council, we are really sympathetic and try to be reactionary. That being said, you do have rules that have been built over a period of time, and those rules have to apply to everybody. There are times that there will be exceptions to the rules, but those exceptions are gonna be exceptional. For the most part, we have to follow the rules and codes we have. And upholding those rules and things that we built up is very fair, and it's very transparent for anybody trying to follow the course of getting things done in the city. That's kind of all I have.
Right.
Yes. Aaron's next, but you had your hand up.
Did we decide on public comment at the mayor's special meeting? Oh, good question. Did we decide on public comment at the mayor's special meeting? It was kind of left open-ended in our packet, and so I'm just circling back.
I thought we did decide we're gonna have public comment.
We asked if it was required.
Yeah, and it's not required, and I
Right.
thought you guys.
We,
said no.
we said no?
No, we said we would talk about it, we wanted the information.
Okay.
But we're looking for a consensus, yes or no.
I think it would be a good idea to hear from the people. I think it would be a good idea to hear. Agreed.
Yeah.
But do we do it after and kind of have them, have them answer the questions?
I think we do it before, just have it.
We did it before, in my opinion, we did it before, like we have any, like, we have the openings for that.
I don't mind.
So at the regular place on the agenda like it normally is.
Right, public comment at that time could, address that. I mean, I think we could,
Counselor Gumrow has it.
and Council, sorry, Aaron, we did not, skip you. We just kind of like worked around and for a minute.
No, I'm fine with doing the public comment. I was waiting for my council reports, but yeah, if there's consensus to do the public comment, let's just do it. And I would suggest we do it at the beginning, like everybody said. I think that's the easiest. Just stick to our standards, because that's, as Councilor Fage pointed out, standards make it easier for us, right? That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Council Bateman.
I just want to play devil's advocate for a moment, and I also love a good standard and routine. However, I would be curious if public comment would change after having the candidates come up and hear their responses to the statements. And if that would change what they had previously, come up to speak about. So I would just throw it out there as a suggestion, in my personal opinion, to possibly consider holding public comment at the end after all candidates have been interviewed, and then residents can share their consensus and feelings.
I'm fine with either way, but I just want to have public comment there for me.
So there's a float that we have it after we have the candidates state publicly why they want to run and whatever else they need to state. We do it afterwards. Is that okay with everybody?
Do the interview questions?
Yeah, I think interview questions, any kind of questions we have.
So.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm just worried about this becoming a political rally. you know?
It will.
Um,
Bring coffee.
I think maybe, do we have an option to maybe put some limits or parameters or anything, or is it just gonna be open public comment?
We can limit the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the time, maybe not 3 minutes, but maybe just 1 minute.
Yeah.
And the planning commission also has some rules stated that with that, they begin with like. I saw it just recently on their agenda. The planning commission has some. Like 5 rules that seem pretty. Appropriate. Like. I'd have to pull it up.
Right, like you will talk about these things and not these,
Well,
right?
and like don't bash or some, you know.
Yeah,
one of
campus
those.
settings.
It's in all of our rules already.
It's just not listed in the.
Yeah.
Are we in agreement? We should keep it to 1 minute?
Yes.
Yeah, and rules of engagement, if we could somehow make a front and center, that might be helpful.
We can, yeah,
Post them up here.
I posted it on that table. It's out there, but I can put it in the packet.
It could be when we start public comment, the.
I can
council
read it.
president- the
I can read
council
it.
President
Yeah.
can
very
open just
closing.
like we do to say, this is the process.
Yep.
State your name, do this, remember these things, be civil. And, it is an opportunity to weigh in and for us to hear the public before we start the discussion and then nomination process.
Sounds fair.
That was beautiful, thank you.
Okay, so after all the candidates have answered their interview questions, 1 minute each per public comment, and have the public comment rules for lack of better term in the packet, and they're, like I said, they're always posted out here. So,
And the council president will say something like, these are all your neighbors,
yeah,
so
Yeah.
please,
Be nice.
and.
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking about your neighbor here.
okay, got it,
I agree.
okay.
Okay, so
Yes.
for my, yeah, sorry, for my
Reports?
council report, I have Washington County Mayor's meeting on Monday. I haven't had any ex officio duties. I got a notification from Lori that the library board was, like, Parks Board, sorry, Parks.
Yep.
I keep mixing these up, sorry, my bad. I haven't mispronounced anybody's name, so I got that going for me today. It was canceled, so I will not have any ex officio duties, I believe, until later. I did want to ask for consensus on one thing, and this is a follow-up on Councilor Papin's question on the Mr. Well, I'm just not even going to try this one. On the gentleman with the solar, I would like to see if council would be open to asking planning commission to review 155, 178, I believe it is the area in question, to determine if an amendment is appropriate to grandfather an existing residence, because it seems to me, this is my opinion, just one counselor for what it's worth, a bit onerous to change the rules and then force somebody to go through a design review and spend money. So I would just like to have planning commission weigh in on that if everybody's on board. If not, then I said my piece. That was just my request.
The grandfathering, I'm kind of surprised it's not, so we should have a look at that, whether it should be grandfathered or not.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is that us or planning commission? I guess is what I should say. Like who would start that process to ask those questions?
So I think we're asking for two things here. One is this particular request that came to us about a particular dwelling. And then the zoning code change regarding grandfathered places. And we've just reached a point in age where that kind of thing is going to happen. Code changes along the way because of these kinds of things. When they created the code originally for that house, they did not think solar panels will come along. So, I think that so I want to clarify which thing you're asking for. Are you asking about this particular request? Which is
No,
not
I'm asking for consensus that either council or planning commission, whoever the appropriate authority is, reviews the relevant code areas to say, if the structure predates the code, then to put a grandfather clause, or to at least give us an opinion, or for us to deliberate on an opinion on putting an amendment that grandfathers in existing properties. The property owner reached out to me. I've already responded to him. after discussing with Bill to clarify, and basically explain to him what Rowan said, that he needs to, if he wants to request a waiver, he needs to come before council. Otherwise, that's kind of the next step in the process if he wants us to waive, but that's pretty much all I've told him. But in the case of the ordinance, I think that it is something I personally would like to see us or planning commission consider. Is that appropriate, or can we modify it to protect existing homeowners, so that they're made whole?
Thank you for clarifying, Councilor Dumbrell. And, one thing though, we don't have anything before us, so it wouldn't come to council to review that waiver until there's an actual application in.
Again, I'm not asking for the waiver. I'm
Well, no,
asking,
You had
I'm
spoke
asking,
with the and told him to bring it to council as a request, but it would need to first come in as an application.
I'm asking council to consider whether or not, or planning commission, whomever the appropriate authority is, whether or not modifying the ordinance is appropriate. I'm just asking for consensus on that.
Yes, I understand.
I agree, that should be reviewed.
I'd like planning commission to.
But I think the spirit is in conflict with the law.
Right.
I'd like planning commission to review it.
Under your code, any text amendments have to come from the planning commission anyway, so that's the appropriate place to start.
Thank you. So
Any
that's
further
consensus to send that to.
consensus? We have consensus on
Thank you.
Scary nodding, so.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
All right, then go back to the agenda, make sure we can wrap this. Okay, if there's no other comments or scheduling conflicts. Can I get do we need motion to adjourn or who's adjourned?
Nope.
And we are adjourned at 8:41.
Thank you all.
Sorry for that confusion.